The movie kicks off with some intense action. A criminal is speeding away in a car, and in the backseat, he's got a scared lady he's kidnapped. But things don't go as planned when the car crashes suddenly. Using this chance, the lady attempts to make a run for it, but the criminal, panicked and trying to regain control, quickly draws his gun, especially since he hears sirens and realizes the police are closing in. By the next day, the whole city is buzzing with the news of the previous night's drama. It turns out that two detectives, Quentin Connors and Jason York, confronted the kidnapper and, in the heat of the moment, shot him dead. Because of this decision, both of them end up losing their jobs and are left grappling with their sudden change of circumstances. A couple of months fly by, and just when you think things might be calming down, there's a new twist. A group of robbers make a bold move and storm into a bank. They're serious and don't want any heroes. They make it clear to everyone. Follow their instructions or face consequences. But one brave, or perhaps reckless, bank employee tries to alert the police by secretly pressing the alarm button. The robbers catch on, and things take a grim turn for the worker. With the alarm blaring, they rush to crack open the bank's vault. As expected, the police arrive on the scene in no time. But the head robber, Lawrence, isn't your typical criminal. He specifically requests to negotiate with Quentin Connors. This is a shocker, considering Connors isn't even on the force anymore. Lawrence makes a chilling threat. If Connors isn't brought to the scene, the hostages are in grave danger. This forces the police chief's hand. He goes personally to Connors' home, asking him to step in. Connors, still feeling the sting of being removed from duty, is initially hesitant, but the police chief offers him a way back in. Handle this situation, and he can have his badge back. After some thought, Connors decides he's in and gears up for the showdown. When Connors arrived at the bank, he was immediately asked to talk with Lawrence, the main robber. Lawrence revealed that he was seeking revenge. He was the brother of the criminal Connors had shot 2 months prior. Lawrence made it clear he wanted to get even with Connors. After the call ended, Connors hatched a plan. He asked the SWAT team to cut off the bank's electricity, hoping this would disable the automatic doors and allow them an entrance. But the situation quickly took a dark turn. The robbers responded by hanging 2 of the hostages, which caused panic among the SWAT team. They wanted to storm the bank immediately. Connors, sensing a trap, tried to hold the SWAT team back. He warned them that acting rashly might play right into the robbers' hands. But before they could decide on a course of action, an explosion rocked the bank's interior. Several SWAT team members were incapacitated from the blast. In the ensuing chaos, some hostages managed to escape and flee the building. When the dust settled and the police finally entered the bank, they found that the robbers, led by Lawrence, had vanished. But what puzzled them even more was the discovery that not a single dollar had been taken. It seemed the bank heist wasn't about money at all. Connors attempted to gather more clues by checking the bank's CCTV footage, but it turned out the robbers had thought of that too. The footage was sabotaged, leaving Connors and the police with more questions than answers. Meanwhile, a brilliant detective named Shane Decker was busy analyzing the conversation between Connors and Lawrence. After listening closely, Decker came to a realization. Lawrence was employing a tactic known as the chaos strategy. He believed that if the police could connect the dots between various events, they might crack the case wide open. Wanting to share his insights, Decker reached out to Connors and suggested they meet up at a cafe. Over coffee, Decker explained his theory about Lawrence using a chaos strategy. Connors, unfamiliar with the concept, listened intently as Decker broke it down for him. After their discussion, Connors decided to head back to the crime scene, offering Decker a lift. As they were leaving, Connors handed Decker $10 to cover his drink, but Decker pointed out that the bill was actually $20. With a wry smile, he exchanged Connors $10 for the correct amount. Back at the bank, they were met by 2 senior detectives who had been reviewing external CCTV footage from the time of the robbery. They identified a suspect they believed had been working in collaboration with Lawrence's crew. Their logic was straightforward. If they could track down and apprehend this individual, they'd be one step closer to capturing Lawrence and his gang. In a fast-paced turn of events, the police located the fugitive they were searching for. Preparing for a raid, they hoped for a smooth capture, but things got heated quickly. Bullets started flying, and amidst the chaos, the fugitive found a way out, diving through a window and making his escape in a car. Not one to give up, Decker hopped onto a nearby resident's motorbike and sped after him. But the chase was cut short when Decker lost control and took a tumble. Just when it seemed like the fugitive had made a clean getaway, out of nowhere, a car slammed into him. The driver was none other than Connors. Overwhelmed by anger and adrenaline, Connors dragged the injured fugitive out of the wreckage and ensured he received medical attention, though not without a degree of rough handling. Later, Connors decided to return to the fugitive's apartment, searching for evidence linking him to Lawrence's group. To his surprise, a senior detective was already there and had uncovered a bag filled with money. But here's where things got even more intriguing. The money wasn't from the recent bank robbery. It was from a heist that had taken place a month ago. Oddly enough, the cash carried a specific scent, a fragrance often used in investigators' offices to mark money as evidence. This discovery set off alarm bells why evidence from the investigator's office in the possession of the fugitive. With this new lead, Connors and Decker decided their next stop had to be the investigator's office, aiming to unravel the mystery of the fragrant money. At the investigator's office, Connors and Decker were greeted by a guard named Harry. Eager for any leads, Connors immediately inquired about frequent visitors. Harry revealed that a detective, Callow, often dropped by. Interestingly, Callow had recently collected a bag of money, claiming it was evidence, and his signature in the guest book could verify his recent visits. Connecting the dots, Connors and Decker grew suspicious of Detective Callow's involvement with both the fugitive and Lawrence. They urgently approached the police chief, advocating for Callow's immediate arrest. But a sudden piece of news interrupted their plea. Detective Callow was found dead in his residence. Rushing to Callow's home, they discovered a revealing piece of evidence, a map pinpointing the bank targeted in the morning's robbery. This only strengthened their conviction that Callow had played a part in the criminal activities. However, with Callow's death, any direct testimonies or confessions were now impossible. In the midst of their investigation, the house phone rang. On the other end was Lawrence, the mastermind behind it all. His chilling words served as a warning. Connor's life would never know peace again, for Lawrence had marked him as a target and would relentlessly pursue him. The game of cat and mouse had just intensified. Outside Callow's home, Decker, with a contemplative expression, expressed his concerns about the increasing complexity of the case. His belief was that to truly understand and solve the puzzle, they needed to trace back to the start. A return to the bank and its malfunctioning CCTV seemed like the logical next step. Upon arriving at the bank, it was clear Decker had a plan. He had enlisted the services of the police's top experts to revive the previously non-functional CCTV system. With their expertise, the team managed to get the cameras back up and running. But the footage revealed an unexpected twist. There was no sign of the robbers at all. It was as if they'd never been there. Exhausted and hungry from the day's events, Connors, Decker, and the two senior detectives decided to take a break and recharge over dinner at a local restaurant. But as they settled into their meals and conversations, the case was never far from their minds. When Connors returned from a quick restroom break, Decker shared some breaking news. The IT team had reached out with vital information. It appeared that Lawrence's crew had allied with a skilled hacker who had manipulated the bank's systems, including the CCTV. The IT team had pinpointed the hacker's location. Without wasting a moment, Connors and Decker immediately left the restaurant, intent on confronting this new lead head-on. The next scene highlighted the predicament of the hacker, who was now acutely aware that his cover had been blown. Just as he was gathering his essentials to make a hasty exit, Lawrence made a surprise appearance. Without hesitation, Lawrence executed the hacker, sending a clear message. Anyone in his group caught by the police was expendable. As Connors and Decker arrived shortly after, all they could do was discover the lifeless body of the hacker. In the distance, Lawrence made his getaway in a car. They tried to pursue, but the elusive Lawrence managed to evade them once more. Seeking more clues, Connors and Decker headed to the hospital to interrogate the fugitive. Initially, the fugitive remained tight-lipped, refusing to divulge any information. However, Decker's unconventional and menacing method of threatening to introduce adrenaline into the fugitive's IV drip made him sing. He revealed a significant piece of information. Lawrence and his gang had planned a meeting at Lawrence's old residence the following night to strategize their upcoming heist. The subsequent day saw Connors and Decker briefing the police chief on their newfound intelligence. Swiftly, a plan was set into motion to ambush Lawrence and his gang. Evening descended, and the police, including Connors and Decker, staked out Lauren's old home. But things didn't go as planned. A police alarm was inadvertently triggered, alerting Lauren's gang to their presence. This led to an intense shootout. While they managed to neutralize some of Lauren's men outside, Connors, Decker, and the rest of the team proceeded inside, where they faced another round of gunfire. The intensity of the situation peaked when Teddy, a senior detective, spotted a ticking bomb that was moments away from detonation. With a sense of urgency, she yelled at Decker and the rest, warning them of the impending explosion. They scrambled to safety. However, Connors, in the midst of a confrontation with one of Lauren's men, wasn't as fortunate. From a safe distance, Lawrence observed the fiery aftermath with a smirk of satisfaction. In his mind, he had finally settled the score. Decker and the two senior detectives, including Teddy, had narrowly escaped the blast. They stood in shock and sorrow, witnessing the aftermath that claimed Connors. The sight of his charred remains was heart-wrenching for them. As the new day dawned, Decker, grieving the loss of Connors, was at the police station, trying to pick up the pieces. An unexpected revelation came from the aide officer who had previously assisted the police in their investigation. He revealed a masterstroke by Lawrence's gang. They had implanted a virus in the bank's system, discreetly siphoning less than $100 from each customer's account. Given the bank's vast clientele, this seemingly minor theft from each individual had cumulatively resulted in the theft of a whopping $1 billion. The sheer genius of this plan was that no individual customer felt the pinch or raised an alarm for such a small sum. The collective theft, however, went down in history as one of the most significant heists ever. With this revelation, everything became clear to Decker. Lawrence's clever use of the chaos theory was a ruse, a diversion to distract them from the actual heist. As Decker was on the verge of departure, he received an unexpected call from Lawrence, who warned him to cease the pursuit or meet the same tragic fate as his colleague Connors. The threat, far from deterring Decker, only ignited a fiercer resolve within him to apprehend Lawrence. He made his way to the investigator's office, determined to interrogate Harry, the officer in charge. Decker, having discovered discrepancies in the guest book supposedly signed by Detective Callow, believed it to be a forgery. After relentless probing, Harry eventually conceded, admitting to forging Callow's signature out of resentment due to Callow's constant disrespectful treatment towards him. Harry also confessed to taking the money from the investigator's office and giving it to the fugitive to earn his cooperation with Lawrence. Harry's inadvertent slip revealed that the entire force was aware that Lawrence had always overshadowed Connors in every way. This cascade of revelations pushed Decker to threaten Harry, pressing him for the true identity of Lawrence, with the lives of Harry's family hanging in the balance. Eventually, Harry divulged that Lawrence was none other than York, a former colleague of Connors, who had been dismissed from the service early in the film for shooting a criminal and a female hostage. Thus, it was unveiled that York, masquerading as Lawrence, had orchestrated all the chaos as a vendetta against the police force, driven by his resentment over his dismissal after years of loyal service. Shortly after, Decker, along with the senior detective, took a bold move by surprising York when he was casually sipping coffee at a cafe. This led to a tense situation with bullets flying, and by the end, Decker successfully managed to overpower York. With this victory, Decker felt a sense of accomplishment, thinking he was closer to resolving the chaos. Concurrently, while unwinding at a different cafe, Decker had an odd moment. He noticed a peculiar smell coming from the money he was about to use to settle his bill. This wasn't just any smell, it was reminiscent of the money from the investigator's office. Memories flashed back to a time he received money from Connors during one of their coffee meetups. A nagging thought began to grow in Decker's mind that Connors might have some involvement in the recent mess. Decker's suspicion grew stronger when he decided to visit Connors' residence. There, amidst many personal belongings, he discovered a book titled Chaos Theory. Interestingly, several parts of the book were meticulously highlighted. Decker recalled a past conversation where Connors mentioned his struggles to understand the chaos theory, even though he had spent a significant amount of time with that particular book. Connecting the dots, a chilling realization dawned on Decker. It was beginning to seem like Connors, his trusted friend, might have been the mastermind behind the grand robbery. Even more shocking was the idea that Connors might have staged his own death to divert attention. Eager to verify his suspicions, Decker coordinated with his colleagues to see if Connors might be trying to escape the city via the airport. However, after a thorough check, they'd found no trace of him there. In the whirlwind of the situation, Decker noticed the name James Gleick printed on the side of the book. This was the name of the author who had written about the chaos theory. Thinking quickly, Decker urged his colleagues to search for anyone going by the name James Gleick, suspecting that Connors might be using that name as an alias. Decker was persistent in his belief that Connors was still lurking around the airport. When he reached the airport, he immediately asked the officials about passengers registered under the name James Gleick. Before the officials could give him any answers, Decker's phone rang. To his surprise, it was Connors on the other end. The conversation was intense. All the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Connors admitted to being the brain behind the robberies and that he had conspired with York, also known as Lawrence. It was York's job to assemble the crew for the heist, which is why none of his men recognized or knew Connors. Connors told Decker that he had successfully changed his identity and planned to start fresh in a different country. He also reminded Decker that technically he was considered dead, making it almost impossible for anyone to trace or catch him. Connors was confident that Decker wouldn't be able to reach him now. Connors had everything planned out in meticulous detail. He cleverly manipulated the SWAT team to shut off the bank's power, making it easier for the hacker to infiltrate the system. The explosion at York's house was another one of Connors' tricks. He had set up the bomb himself. Right before it went off, he took cover in a basement. To ensure everyone believed he died in the explosion, he took one of York's crew members, placed a police badge on him, and left him to be the unfortunate victim. The explosion made sure the body was unrecognizable. After the blast, Connors cleverly disguised himself as a firefighter to escape unnoticed. In the meantime, Decker was frantically searching for any sign of Connors, unaware that he was always one step behind. Connors didn't use the main airport. He had a private jet waiting for him at a smaller one. With the billions he had accumulated, Connors could afford anything he desired. As the truth about Connors' schemes became clear, the realization hit Decker hard. The movie concludes with the image of Connors boarding his jet, ready to begin his new life as a billionaire. The moral of the story is always double-check your coffee change. It might be connected to $1 billion heist.